No, I think they're 10, 20 years ahead of us, maybe even more, not because of they're a couple months ahead or behind on DeepSeek or ChatGPT, but because of uplifting the entire cities here. And this is, what digital China is uplifting this whole area. And quite a few of these business owners, when I had dinners with them here, they would tell me their personal story, just like when we started out here. And almost, many of them had a very similar story, which was, well, in the 1980s or 90s, I lived in rural areas and I didn't even have shoes. And now, look at me. Okay, so this could be America.
大家好，欢迎来到本期视频。先来介绍一下背景啊。今天这场对话来自价值娱乐，一个在美国创业圈子里相当有分量的频道。它的定位非常清晰，教人理解资本主义，信奉自由市场，教人做硬核的企业家。基调从头到尾都是轻商业、轻个人奋斗、反大政府那一套，在右翼保守派阵营里很有号召力。频道创始人兼主持人叫帕特里克·贝特戴维，圈内人习惯叫他 PBD。他是伊朗裔美国人，出生在德黑兰，在伊朗革命期间随父母以难民身份逃离，最终在美国获得公民身份。他公开支持川普，拥护持枪权，笃信美国例外论。在他心里，他认定美国天下无敌，不可替代。而他对中国的态度也跟这一套世界观一脉相承，他是典型的对华鹰派，对中国的警惕和偏见可以说是刻在骨子里的。在他眼里，中国不是合作伙伴，而是美国最该严防死守的头号对手。这种立场他从来不掩饰。而嘉宾则完全是另一路人，罗伯特·佩普，他是芝加哥大学政治系终身教授，国际安全事务领域的重量级学者，曾为多届美国政府提供战略咨询。他是一位理智的现实主义者，对中美关系的看法相对温和。他公开说过，中美之间不会发生冷战。他还反复主张，中美应该建立一条有效的危机沟通热线，因为东亚擦枪走火的风险远比很多人想象的要高很多。一个把中国视为必须遏制的对手，一个主张管控危机，避免误判。这样两个人坐在一起聊中国，他们会碰撞出什么样的火花呢？好，话不多说，我们来看正片里。
So let's talk China. So you went to China last year, I think last year, June.
During the bombing of Fordo, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The audience may think, well, these types of things don't happen. I got an email 2018, 2019. I made 3 China videos criticizing China in a big way. And then I got an email from a PR firm in New York. We have the entire paper trail. This Chinese charity, this Chinese billionaire who was worth at the time $20-30 billion, wants to give you $600,000. In return, he wants to invite you to a charity event, and he wants you to take $300,000 of the $600,000 and give it to the charity, and he wants to take a picture with you. We got on a call. It was me, a guy named Gerard, and Mario get on a call. They're presenting it to us. A man from China's on the call. The PR firm's on the call. And I said, what charity is this? And they're kind of going through, well, we want to show you China because we want you to see the greater part of China. I'm like, great. And so let me get this straight. You want me to take $600K and give a charity? Yeah, that's all we want you to. And you can keep the other $300,000.
Exactly.
So you want to, for the rest of my life, hold me hostage that I took $600K from you guys? Yes.
Well, that's the second.
Not interested.
That's the second.
You're there for 2 weeks, 18 hours a day.
Yeah.
And you're in the factories. You're in places. What did you learn about where China's at that the rest of the world is not aware of?
Yeah, what I learned is we're tracking about, I would say, from the newspapers, that is Wall Street Journal, New York Times, even the business side, probably about 10% of the real big picture of what's happening in China. What we are doing is taking a soda straw view of what's happening, focusing on individual companies. And I know because when I went, I wanted to visit the companies, BYD, Xiaomi, which is another electric vehicle manufacturer. It's like the Porsche level. And also Alibaba, also some laser advanced AI in Wuhan. And I wanted to go visit the companies because that's what I thought I should do. I wanted to see, and I did. I visited the companies on the shop floor. I got a chance to see how the robots actually work. For for hours, not just for a few minutes. And I did learn some things there, and I'll come back to the detail in just a second. But by doing this, by going to not just Beijing and Shanghai, which many people will do all the time here, but by going to Wuhan, Hangzhou, Shenzhen, to actually go on the shop floor, spend hours and hours and hours there, then go to dinner with the executives to really talk about the situation here, also in the Middle East. I learned something really big, Patrick, which is what China's doing is not just simply uplifting a company. They are doing that. They're uplifting whole cities. So think not about an AI company in Pittsburgh. Think Pittsburgh itself is being uplifted. So what I saw was, say, I'll just pick Wuhan, because Wuhan is an old steel city like Pittsburgh is. Now it's 9 million. Pittsburgh's about 350,000, so it's bigger. But what they did in Wuhan was they are uplifting all of the medical industry. They are uplifting all of the city's transit infrastructure with AI. I don't just mean redoing paving the potholes here. They are uplifting, when you go to get your driver's license in these cities that I'm in, they have rebuilt the entire buildings where it's not that they just accommodate your cell phone. It's like, start cell phone, build building around the idea of a cell phone. Okay, this is a completely different experience where you go into the building to get either you want a building permit or you want your driver's license here. You're going in, and the very first thing you do is you have to tap your phone so that you get everything downloaded on your phone, because there's an awful lot of forms you need to fill out. And you might try to do this at home, but they explained to me, yes, but when we try to do that, we need to have people standing on the side so that there's always going to be a question here or there that you're going to have. And so then what do you have? You don't have these long lines. City of Chicago motor vehicle, oh my goodness gracious. Just imagine, if those of you could just imagine, it's worse than you imagine, okay? But what happens in these advanced cities now, is they have the equivalent of Starbucks right there. They have little areas for the kids to play, because what the parents have to do, the adults have to come in, is they got to go and work on their cell phone to fill out all these forms. And then they will have about 10% contact with humans, other people there, because it's not going to be you can't do everything on your phone, but it dramatically reduces all of the issues we deal with. So it's they are uplifting whole city. And then one of the big fears we have here about AI is it's going to put everybody, it's to make everybody unemployed. That's not what's happening in Wuhan and Shenzhen and Hangzhou. You're having massive construction, because what you're doing is you're feeding AI in at every single street corner. When you get a speeding ticket, now you know how we have the red lights here? Okay.
They take the pictures.
They take the picture, and we get about 2 weeks later here, and you don't know that it happened for 2 weeks, okay? What happens in China, and they showed me, literally the driver showed me this, is when you run that speeding ticket, you get it in 2 seconds.
Stop it.
And they take it right out. No, and you could just push pay now.
That is hilarious.
And so it's happening like that.
Kind of would be good for me. I have way too many tickets. My license got suspended for the 3rd time 2 weeks ago.
Well, my
wife's like, your license is. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yes, unpaid ticket.
So, but that doesn't happen without massive construction. So their construction workers are actually doubled what they were over the last 10 years. The health industry is growing as well, because all of this, it's not about the company alone. And then the other thing that I really was just knocked me off my socks was the integration with university systems. So now, of course, I'm a professor and I'm interested in doing that. And as I'm doing this tour, not just me talking to them about how they're integrating with the AI, because you've got basically AI that doesn't need a BA, you've got AI that needs a BA, AI that needs a master's, and AI that needs PhDs. And then they started to take me these different firms. So a lot of the firms are what's called vertically integrated, where what they're doing is building their own silicon chips. So they took me to the chip factories. So this would be a chip factory. I went in, say, Wuhan, which is part of a AI laser company. So they have the AI lasers here that are doing all this special carving with lasers and AI, but then they do their own chips. So they took me to the chips where you've got to get all dressed in the suits because you can't have any spotty, any dirt that gets in. And then they started to explain to me that, and they showed me that what's really happening here is you can't do this with BAs. You've got to actually have masters, and some of the chip assemblies here need to be done with PhDs because it's really very technical and very specific. It's not just people turning widgets or screwdrivers. This is a very different thing. So you want to work very closely with universities. So I'm coming back and I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania. And I've seen Erie, Pennsylvania, just kind of the bottom fall out since over the last 30, 40 years. It breaks my heart. I mean, we basically have we used to have all these industries, and we had paper industries, all these tool and die industries here. You know what the big industries in Erie, Pennsylvania are? Hospitals where you're born and funeral parlors where you die. Okay, and this just breaks my heart here. And we just don't have any real approach like this. But what China's doing is they're not just uplifting a DeepSeek or an Alibaba. They are creating webs of doing that. But 90% of this is happening in a much broader context. And I went in that 2-week period, I went to these four areas. It's about 50 million people that are being uplifted. Now, maybe they haven't uplifted anybody else. I don't know. I didn't actually. They're telling me that if I went to the more rural areas, I'd be impressed there too, and maybe I will go back. But the bottom line is, let's assume it's only 50 million people. Only 50 million people, and we're going to look down on that? No, I think they're 10, 20 years ahead of us, maybe even more. Not because of they're a couple months ahead or behind on DeepSeek or ChatGPT, but because of uplifting the entire cities here. And this is, what digital China is uplifting this whole area. And quite a few of these business owners, when I had dinners with them here, they would tell me their personal story, just like when we started out here. And almost, many of them had a very similar story, which was, well, in the 1980s or 90s, I lived in rural areas and I didn't even have shoes. And now, look at me. Okay, so this could be America.
Well, this is America. They kind of duplicated us. Without us,
but where are we? Where are we right now? You see, I believe
we are the juggernaut. We are the greatest country in the world that everybody copies and duplicates. And steals from.
Let's get juggernauting. Okay, so I am definitely. I'm not going to become a salesman or sort of supporter of China. I'm going and looking at this as let's get moving here. And I don't think we're even getting to first base. I don't know if we're really out of the batter's box here. So we've got all these plans. We've got all these ideas. And I see the stock market. And now with the other thing I want to say to your audience is, right now, they're probably going to go and start to Google. Oh, okay, Professor Pape is saying all this stuff. I'm going to go see for myself. You can't see it on Google. And the reason is because they won't let
what
the
they're
picture.
Doing in China is
the
advancement.
I mean, the actual shop floor.
Right.
Just like you go in the West Wing, they take the cell phone. Okay, they don't want. They could easily be talking smack and bragging and showing all this off. They're just not doing that, and that tells me we're up against not just a competitor, but we're up against somebody who wants to keep going under the radar.
You know, it's interesting because when you go to places like this, they're only going to show you the good. They're not going to show you the ugly, the bad, the fact that their population has decreased 5 years in a row. And some people are reporting that the number of them being 1.4 billion is not the real number, that it's a lot less than that, because if you do the math from the moment they went to one-child policy, you know, they're inviting you to show you the best.
Let me give you a little bit of background, a little bit more. So my first trip to China was 1979. 79. I was a first-year undergrad at the University of Pittsburgh. I heard about a trip that 30 of our professors were going on to study the economic industries in China. Couple graduate students were going, and I said, well, are there any undergrads going? Oh, no. So I wrote a letter to the chancellor. His name was Wesley Posvar, and 2-page letter. Brilliant idea. You're going to be the first university trip ever. Too bad you don't have an undergrad going. I got a free trip to China. Okay. So I always tell that story to my students. So just write those letters. What do you got to lose? Okay. And so I get a 5-week trip. This was not a short thing.
Wow.
5 weeks.
79.
1979. And what we did is we went, started in Hong Kong. We went to it's called Canton. That's not the Chinese name, but that's the Americanization of it. And then we basically went to multiple cities, just like I did here. And my presentation shows I have the before and after here. And Shenzhen is like unbelievable. It was just a little fishing village. Back then. And what we did is with these 30 economists, I was there with them. In the morning, we'd tour the shop floor. In the afternoon, we'd spend time with all the leaders, hearing all the stats and so forth that they wanted to collect, because they wanted to know, could China change? Could China? That was the big issue here at the time. Well, I started to go back in 2012. Now, 2012, this is after the Olympics. You're talking about they don't show you the best. Well, this was during the air
apocalypse. After the Olympics.
This was
they
after
crushed the Olympics.
Well, they did, but this was during the air apocalypse, which your listeners can also look up. So the air apocalypse was the worst atmospheric pollution that we have had in any urban area, probably here in about 100 years. That we used to have this in say, London here, long time ago in the 19th century, where there was so much soot in the air from all of the chimneys that were churning out all this coal-driven energy here. It was literally pitch black at noon. So when you're in Beijing, you have to wear an N95 mask. But now what's happened in the last 10 years is they've gone huge into solar, as most people know. Well, what does that mean? Far less pollution. Far less pollution. Here, and you know that because you go to the cities and they literally don't have like the air apocalypse. I was there. I physically was there, where when you take off from Beijing, the airport in Beijing at noon, and it's totally pitch black. Once you're at 15,000 feet, the sun. Okay, this is real problems. You know, big problems. And so I saw it, but I also see China, they're cleaning things up, and we got to get moving here, Patrick. We got to stop talking we're going to get moving and just deciding that certain billionaires were going to fund their companies or help their companies get ahead. That we need to do more.
See this picture? Is this kind of what you're talking about, how it went from?
Oh, exactly. I have pictures.
10 days apart.
That's right. And also then in, so in 2015 when I went to Wuhan, you would see Wuhan have, because it's a steel, it's more of a steel company, steel. So if you had a picture from Wuhan 2015 there. Yeah, there you go. There you go. I was literally giving talks in Wuhan. That's exactly right. And then I went literally last June. Okay. And it's just a different, now, does it ever get like that? It probably still does some. But I'm just pointing out that over time, what is happening here is changes occurring in China.
这期视频就到这里了，欢迎大家在评论区理性交流和补充。本视频仅代表个人观点。另外，制作视频不易，如果您觉得做得不错，感谢您动动手指，一键3连。如果您有更多的想法或建议，也可以在评论区告诉我，我都会看见。我们下期见。